Hello, class. My name's Courtney Reed. I will be talking about the history of domestic violence. The beginning. It was once acceptable for a husband to use physical force on his wife. An 1862 decision from North Carolina decided between justifiable and unjustifiable beatings. Courts considered beatings to be provoked in order for the husband to get their wives to obey. If more force than usual was applied, this could call for grounds of divorce or even criminal prosecution. Abuse prevention laws. Women activists in the 1960s challenged the fact that domestic violence was considered personal matters outside the scope of the law. They demanded that domestic control over women be recognized by the law, which strongly appointed for states to adopt abuse prevention laws. Abuse prevention laws are laws that enable domestic violence victims to obtain emergency protective orders. Questions to consider when understanding how this law works. What kinds of relationships qualify for a protective order? What kinds of harm entitle a victim to obtain a protective order? What kinds of protection are available? What is the process for obtaining an order, and how is the order enforced? Protective orders. Protective orders is when a court order to protect the victim from harm. Although civil in nature, violation of these orders is a criminal offense in many states. To obtain a protective order, number one, the party seeking the order files a complaint with a supporting affidavit. Number two, most cases, the complaint is heard on an ex parte basis, which means the other side is not aware of the complaint. Number three, a temporary protective order is issued, which is an order made during the pendency of a legal proceeding. 4, service is made on the defendant. 5, at the second hearing, the original order may be extended, modified, or vacated. If extended, date for its expiration is usually established. 6, prior to the expiration of the protective order, the plaintiff may return. Qualifying relationships. When it comes to abuse prevention laws are intended to provide protections to persons who are being abused by someone with whom they have an intimate family or family-like relationship. Some states have statutes that don't have a relationship requirement, but the available protections may be limited if the parties aren't in a qualifying relationship. This is just saying that it would be harder to get a domestic violence case if you were being harassed by like a coworker or a neighbor or something like that. There are a few remedies. There is restraining order, which is a requirement that the abuser refrain from committing any further acts of abuse. Vacate order, which is a court order requiring a perpetrator of domestic violence to move out the home of he or she shares with the party who is being abused. A stay away order, which requires the abuser to keep away from the victim's home or from other places where the victim regularly goes. A no contact order, which is a protective order that prohibits someone from having any contact with the party that he or she has abused. Temporary custody of minor children is included in a protective order. There are better intervention programs which provide treatment or counseling program that work specifically with abusers. There are firearm acts. In 1994, Congress passed the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968 to criminalize the possession of a firearm or ammunition by someone who is subject to qualifying for a restraining order. In 1996, Congress passed the Gun Control Act by approving the domestic violence offender gun ban, which makes it illegal for any person who has been convicted of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence to possess a firearm. Enforcement of protective orders. Because of concerns over the years, most states have approved mandatory arrest policies that require police officers to arrest the suspect without having to first obtain a warrant whenever there is probable cause to believe that an act of domestic violence has happened. Gonzalez versus Castle Rock. In 2005, U.S. Supreme Court held that a victim does not have a constitutionally protected right to police enforcement of restraining orders. Jessica Gonzalez sued her local police department because they ignored her calls that her husband took their 3 daughters in violation of a restraining order. Tragically, he ended up killing the 3 daughters. Following her loss, Jessica became the first domestic violence survivor from the United States to bring her case before the Inter-American Court on Human Rights. In a landmark ruling, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights held that the failure of the government to protect Jessica and her children constituted a violation of their human rights. There are also anti-stalking laws. In 1990, California passed the nation's first anti-stalking law following the murder of actress Rebecca Schaeffer by a fan who had pursued her for over 2 years. In 2006, Congress passed the Interstate Stalking Punishment and Prevention Act, which makes it a federal crime to travel across state lines for the purpose of stalking. Many states have made stalking a general intent crime, which means that intent to cause harm does not need to be established. The Violence Against Women Act. In 1994, Congress enacted the Violence Against Women Act as part of a national effort to combat intimate partner violence against women. The VAWA provides funding for anti-violence programs. Thank you so much, and this is the end.